Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Saturday, September 21st. Before we get into today's play of the day, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. We picked up another winner with the Cincinnati Reds' first five team total under 1.5, which was available at minus 125 on 5 dimes. Picked up an easy winner. The Reds scored no runs until I believe it was either the 8th or the ninth inning. DeGrom absolutely coasted, and we ended up picking up an easy winner as the score was 0-0 at the end of 5 innings. So we got a bit of a winning streak going along in baseball, but we're going to be transitioning back to college football here on Saturday. Now, before we get into the play of the day, just a quick announcement on why I'm making the video so early. I realized that since football Saturdays and Sundays, all the games are usually at some point in the early afternoon. By the time that I actually get the video up, it might be relatively too late for some of you to actually see the video on time. So for Saturday and Sunday, I think I've decided I will try to make the video some point during the evening, so that way you can wake up in the morning and see the video, and then have enough time to bet on it, for a couple of hours. So for that reason, I decided to come out with this video on past midnight, give or take, instead of waiting till tomorrow afternoon. So with that being said, we're going to dive right into the play of the day, and it will be on the Tulsa Golden Hurricane as they take on the Wyoming Cowboys, and we like Tulsa at minus 3.5, which is available at minus 105 on Heritage at time of recording of 1:38 a.m. on Saturday. And the main reason why we like this matchup here is because we think that even though Tulsa's 1-2 and Wyoming's 3-0, we think that Tulsa is just the better overall team. Think that Wyoming is definitely been benefiting from its very easy schedule, where Tulsa has had to face Michigan State and Oklahoma State in 2 of the first 3 weeks. Wyoming, on the other hand, has beaten Missouri, which was impressive. It was the first game of the season. Missouri looked a little bit flat, but their last 2 games they played at Texas State, who's currently 0-3, and then they beat an FCS opponent in Idaho 21-16. If you need any reminder, that is the same Idaho team that lost to Penn State and gave up 73 points. So Wyoming, even though they are 3-0, hasn't looked impressive to say the least. Tulsa, their stats are a little bit inflated in terms of the negative direction, which I think causes a little bit of a market miscalculation. Specifically, the issue that people run into Tulsa is that it says they are currently averaging roughly 2.7 yards per carry. However, that is also factoring in the game against Michigan State, in which they had, as a team, negative 73 rushing yards. I don't know how that's possible, but that ended up happening. So ever since that game, though, Shamari Brooks, their starting running back, has had at least 100 yards and a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. So even though the stats suggest that Tulsa can't run the ball at 2.6 yards per carry, they've actually been significantly better than that, and it just appears worse because of that one terrible outlier game against Michigan State. So you have Shamari Brooks as the running back, who has 247 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, and quarterback Zach Smith has looked really solid so far, as he has 664 passing yards with a completion percentage over 63%, and he also has 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. They were actually beating Oklahoma State in the 4th quarter of the game last week before their defense completely fell apart, so I'm not completely worried about the team's record. Their 1 win came in San Jose State, a team that is, I'd say, worse than Wyoming, but still it's definitely worse than Michigan State and Oklahoma State. So I think it's a decent comparison. And Tulsa, absolutely, they were fantastic. They ended up having 256 rushing yards for 3 rushing touchdowns. They also had no sacks allowed. I think that Tulsa has just been the victim of a really tough opening schedule. And Wyoming, on the other hand, they love to run the ball. And when I mean that, that could be a good thing to have an identity, and I get the fact that you want to use some type of power system, but they might have the worst passing offense outside of a triple option in the entire FBS this season. Their quarterback, Sean Chambers, so far through 3 games, it's disgusting to look at, has completed 39.1% of his passes, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception for 245 passing yards. That's through 3 games combined. And no, they don't have another quarterback. No, nobody got injured, and this is the new replacement. The starting quarterback for this team for the entire season has completed 39.1% of his passes. Now, I know Wyoming is averaging over 5 yards per carry with 7 rushing touchdowns, and I get that. But if you look at the strength of schedule that they've played, and if you look at the fact that Tulsa's strength schedule is significantly harder than Wyoming's, and Wyoming can't throw the ball I really think that Wyoming is overvalued. Money's come in on Tulsa. Tulsa was originally at -3. It has been up to 3.5. Money's actually just come in on Tulsa at -3.5 to move the line up to -115 at Bet Online. Still available, though, at Heritage at -105. So money is coming in on Tulsa. And I really just don't see how Wyoming can cover if they actually cannot throw the ball. A quarterback completion percentage of 39% is, I can't even explain a comparison for that. That is one of the worst completion percentages I've ever seen. I think if Tulsa sells out towards the run, I think they have good offensive balance with Zach Smith and Shamari Brooks, and I think they should be able to play good enough defense to limit Wyoming offensively. I think Zach Smith will do well. I think Wyoming's defense is a little bit overrated, and for that reason, the play of the day will be on Tulsa -3.5, which is available at -105 at Heritage, and that game should be kicking off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, in terms of some of the other games I've been looking at, I'll give out some leans for some other college games I was thinking about. I was leaning towards Western Michigan and Syracuse over 65.5, which is available at -110 in Intertops. Syracuse offense didn't look great last week against Clemson. They did move the ball up and down the field. They just couldn't capitalize in the red zone. Western Michigan, though, their offense absolutely exploded last week against Georgia State, and I think that should carry over into this game. Specifically, Western Michigan, in 2 of their 3 games this season, have scored at least 48 points. Last week, they won 57-10. Syracuse's defense got torched by Maryland a couple weeks ago, so they are capable of giving up massive performances on defense, as Maryland scored 63 points. I simply think this total's too low. It's been bet up heavily during the course of the week. It originally was at 63. It's up to 66, but it's still available at 65.5 at some spots. Lean to the over on that one. Other than that, looking at the rest of the card, lean to Boston College -7.5, which is available at Pinnacle at -7.5 and -109. I know Boston College lost us some money last week, but Rutgers is terrible, and I still like A.J. Dillon, and I still like the matchup here for Boston College, as Rutgers has been one of the worst FBS teams in, I say, the last 5 years or so. Yeah, Jamal, the under did hit in the end. Castillo was a little bit risky going in, but at the same point, I still, it ended up working out. But Boston College, I mean, you don't have to, Jamal. I understand that because of the fact that they laid an egg against Kansas, but they also played on Friday night last week, so they do have the extra day of preparation, which is worth mentioning. And even though they got embarrassed at home by a Kansas team that had no business being on the same field as them, I think that means that Boston College will be motivated for this one. I think that the coach, after laying such an egg following a 2-0 start, I think the coach has probably been all over the players in practice. They can't afford to let up on defense. I think Rutgers is an abysmal football team with their 1 win coming against UMass, and I think that Boston College should win this game by at least 10 points. So I'll lean to Boston College -7.5 on that one. But looking at the rest of the betting card, a lot of games, not a lot of good games. I'll tell you that much. Looking at the rest of the card, I know that Appalachian State's a popular upset pick. I personally am fine with that. It's been North Carolina's been bet down from -4.5 to -2.5. I think Appalachian State could win the game. I did watch them against Charlotte. I'm not a fan of that defense at all. I think if Appalachian State's going to win, I think the game will go over the total, but I'm personally going to pass. But if you do want to lean in a direction, you could lean to Appalachian State, and I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. Looking at, there's just a lot of games to go through here. Okay, looking at that West Virginia-Kansas game, that's definitely tempting, but I'm not going to touch that. Oregon-Stanford, no. Not really looking at that one either. Baylor, maybe. The Texas total has been bet up. I think 72.5 is a little bit too high, but at -7, I definitely think that spread's also high. That's a tricky one. Really not a big fan of much on the card with the exception of those, I'd say, 3 plays, with my least favorite one being on the Boston College one after last week. But my play of it, as I said before, will be on Tulsa -3.5 at -105 at Heritage. And my 2 leans are on Boston College -7.5 at Pinnacle, and the over 65.5 on Pinnacle between Western Michigan and Syracuse. Other than that, though, quick reminder of our sponsor, PointsBet, all in sportsbook in New Jersey. A couple of great deals for you, up to 2 risk-free bets up to $1,000. So if you end up betting on any sports and end up losing, you simply get your money back, which is a great promotion I wish more sportsbooks would use. If anyone has any questions in the comment section on any games they want me to cover, I will quickly give that a summary. But other than that, though, I'll wait a little while just in case anybody wants to ask anything. But those are my first 3 thoughts on the games themselves. I might potentially make my own teaser at some point tomorrow, and if I do that, I will upload a picture of that to Twitter so I can cover that. In terms of UFC tomorrow, looking at the card, not really a big fan of anything. I would lean to Yair Rodriguez beating Jeremy Stephens, but at plus 100 at 5 times, I think that is worth a shot with Yair Rodriguez, but I'm probably not going to end up betting that on myself. Rest of the card, don't really know many of the other fighters, so I'm not going to touch that. But other than that, though, that's going to over this installment of Scott Selections here for Saturday, September 21st. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.